Welcome to the Exam Room Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, and this is the healthiest half hour anywhere online today. Appreciate you joining us right here on Facebook and on YouTube. Coming up, Dr. Neal Barnard is here to give us the latest on the COVID-19 pandemic. Going to be talking about the current surge in cases as we head into the holidays and the new year and where things stand with the vaccine. Dr. Barnard, looking forward to catching up with you, sir.
You bet. Very important.
Also on the show today, the Gut Health MD is in the house. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz will be here to give us 5 tips to keep our guts healthy during the holiday season. So how can we do that? He's going to share that with us, and he's going to be taking your gut health questions when we open up the doctor's mailbag. So if there's something on your mind for Dr. B, go ahead and post that in the comments or the chat, or you can always tweet that to us using the hashtag ExamRoomLive. Just send that tweet right on over to @ChuckCarroll, WLC, or @PCRM. We'll do our best to get you an answer on today's episode. And as if that's not enough, we're also going to be taking a trip over to the Exam Room News Desk, where we're going to be talking about an exciting trend in the food industry that may in fact show that Americans are falling out of love with meat. We'll tell you all about that in just a little bit, but we do begin with the COVID-19 pandemic and the latest there. Yesterday, 215,000 new infections being reported and more than 2,500 deaths. As recently as just a month ago, those numbers would seem unthinkable, yet here we are today. That has become the norm. We also know that vaccines are on the way. They're being rolled out as we speak over in the UK, and breaking just in this last hour, Canada has given approval to the Pfizer vaccine. But how long here in the U.S. before the dark days yield to a brighter tomorrow? Let's find out now as we look ahead with Dr. Neal Barnard. Dr. Barnard, thank you so very much for being here. As I said, 215,000 new infections yesterday, more than 2,500 deaths. Those numbers are just astronomical.
Yeah, they are. And I think it's really important to see where we are because everyone's hearing about the vaccine. This is almost over. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. This tunnel is still very much a tunnel. Let me show you the numbers. Here's where we are as of today. This graph, if you've been watching a lot of the Exam Room Live, you're familiar with this. We're starting back on the left-hand side back in March. And then as you progress along, this is the number of people who died each day. And you see that big blip in late April, where we're approaching 800 people dying a day, something like that. Okay, then it fell down considerably during the summer months. But then what? About, call it end of October, it started going up and up and up and up. And where we are now is we're in December. And all the predictions are that it's going to get much worse. And why? Back a year ago, people didn't really have this. And even in February, March, it was rare. It could be seeded here or there. Now it's a different story. There are people who have this in every community in America, if not the world. And so they are ready to spread it to other people. So it is very likely that the rise will be that much higher. Now, the people who are taking kind of a dim view of all this will say, well, the most vulnerable people have already gotten it, and many of them are dead already. Maybe so. We do have better treatments than we had before. They're not, frankly, not really great. But all the predictions are that the death rates are going to go up. And then when you look on the right-hand side out here, you see looking into 2021. And that's where things get really hairy looking because those numbers are really shooting up potentially, especially around February. People could say, well, what about the vaccine? We don't have the vaccine yet. Wait a minute. Yes, we do. They started releasing it in Britain this week and so forth. You don't have the vaccine. You don't have it here. And frankly, it's going to take a long time to roll out. What started in Britain was just the very first phase of people accessing it. Once it gets here into the US, it's going to be healthcare workers, people who live in nursing homes, and it's going to be quite a long time before it reaches the general public. Speaking of vaccines, Chuck, do you mind? I'd like to just walk people through the vaccines and where we are with them.
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, all right. Pfizer/BioNTech, kind kind of the first one across the finish line. But let me show you what their vaccine it looks like. You do a big trial, really big. 30,000 people come in, half of them go into the vaccine group, the other half get a placebo. What do? You just wait for the next few months to pass and add up your numbers. Who got sick, who didn't. And what they had in this trial was 170 people got COVID-19 in the trial. So then you break your blind. You look at which group are you in, because if half of them are in the vaccine group and half are in the placebo group, your vaccine's a failure. That isn't what happened. In the vaccine group, 8 cases, the placebo group, 162. All right, something is clearly happening here. The vaccine prevented not all the cases, but call it 95%. Okay, very good. Severe cases, 1 in the vaccine group, 9 in the placebo group. So once again, the vaccine was not absolute protection, but it dramatically reduces the likelihood of getting the disease or getting severe disease. Okay, so adverse events. How sick does the vaccine make you? Pretty low. Fatigue, less than 4%, headache, 2%. That's about it. And here's the big issue with the Pfizer vaccine, though. You've got to freeze it at minus 70 degrees. And most clinics don't have a freezer like that. So it does look like Walgreens and some other places are going to be kitted out and be able to do this. But the vaccine is extremely fragile. When you open it up, the clock starts ticking and you've got to throw it all away, what you don't use pretty promptly. So that's Pfizer. The second one is Moderna. Let me show you about the Moderna vaccine. Numbers similar, but there are some differences. In their preliminary results, they had 95 cases. They're not quite as far along as Pfizer, but 5 of them were in the vaccine group, 90 in the placebo group. Okay, this vaccine works too, pretty clearly. 10 cases were severe. How many of them were in the vaccine group? None. They were all in the placebo group. Oh, I'm sorry. 11 severe cases, and they were all in the placebo group. Okay. Adverse events. A little bit more than Pfizer. Almost 10% of people reported fatigue that was enough to interfere with life, probably short-lived. Muscle aches, about 9%, headaches, about 4.5%. Pain at the injection site, not super common. That's about it. Nothing really too terrible so far. And the nice thing about the Moderna vaccine, you put it in a regular freezer. You don't need a minus 70 freezer. And once you take it out, you can throw it in the fridge. What that means to me is really 2 things. It means it's easier for the clinicians to use, but it also means it's less likely to go bad. So that's one of the concerns that you have is this vaccine. Is it going to be efficacious, or is it a kind of past its sell-by date? It looks like the Moderna vaccine is a little more resilient. But we just have some new figures that I want to share with you. This brand new is, will anybody take the darn thing? Because if people will take it, and then that presumably prevents transmission, that's the end of the pandemic. But if you get a vaccine and doctors' offices have it, or pharmacies have it, or health centers have it, and nobody takes it, then it has no effect at all. Okay, so this is a new survey just now coming out. Among whites, the acceptance of the vaccine was 97%. The other 3% said, I'm kind of skeptical of it. But 97% said, sure, I'll roll up my sleeve. Asians, similar. 96% said, I'll take it. Hispanics, 89% said, I'll take it. Blacks, 56%. Now, the healthcare community has looked at these numbers, and they said, wait a second. You've got 44% of Black Americans say, I won't take the vaccine. The concern that is raised is that means that you have the population that is at most risk of dying of COVID refusing the vaccine. And so the medical personnel are out trying to promote this and trying to say, okay, let's get celebrities to model the vaccine and so forth. I get that, and I think that those are reasonable things to do to encourage people to participate. However, when you look at the reasons why people don't want to take it, it's telling. Number one is it's going to hurt me, and number two, you rushed this through. And that's not all that far off. There has been a lot of cheerleading for the vaccines. They are clearly commercial products. The White House has said, we've got a vaccine right around the corner. It's going to make all this go away. The Black community in particular has been hammered by experiments gone wrong. And I think a certain amount of skepticism is understandable. It would be nice to be able to set it aside, but there have been a number of experiments where Black men and women have been harmed in the service of medical science. And so a certain amount of skepticism has persisted. I think it's a mistake to sweep it away. I think it's also a mistake to say that we are certain that there won't be serious long-term effects. That said, COVID is a killer. It is killing people in all segments of society, but it is almost certain that the vaccine will have a hugely life-saving effect. And that's why people are hopefully not dismissing concerns, but putting them into the context of we have a known killer here that we do need to combat. So, Chuck, that's really where we are right now.
Yeah. And I think that it should also be mentioned that there is a ton of misinformation out there that people may also be basing their decision off of. And so I think it's important that we bring more clarity to the conversation as well. So I appreciate you being here to talk about that. And I also think that we'd be remiss if we didn't mention what's also happening right now over in Britain. Of course, yesterday they began administering vaccines. The first people were given the first round of doses, and tens of thousands of doses given out, if not more. But there was a headline, urgent warning, that came out today that said that if you have serious allergies, you should not yet get the vaccine. That is coming down after two healthcare workers suffered a severe allergic reaction after receiving the vaccine yesterday. My question to you is, in a situation like this, granted it's unprecedented, the pandemic, but with vaccines in general, how unusual is it that somebody could have a reaction such as that?
It's something you expect, actually, and it happens with everything. You have tens of thousands of people in the initial vaccine trials, but even a phase 3 trial, which is the biggest one, it's still very much smaller trial than the real world trial, where you have millions of people taking the vaccine. When you have millions of people, you are going to see some unusual effects that you didn't expect. And in the cases you described in Britain, these were two people who had a history of severe allergic reactions to other things. And so it's not a huge surprise that they might react to the vaccine. The Pfizer vaccine, for example, it's messenger RNA, but that messenger RNA is wrapped up in a little lipid bubble that makes it injectable, and it can survive in your bloodstream. And you could imagine a person reacting to that. And once you've got millions upon millions upon millions of people taking it, some of them will have effects that you can't predict in advance in these few months trials that we've had. On balance, the vaccines look safe. And even in prior vaccine trials, like the swine flu vaccine back in the 70s, there were adverse reactions. There were some people who had really bad neurological reactions, but they were really quite few in number. And so these kinds of things are giving scientists a certain amount of comfort, saying that they believe that the vaccines will be safe. But I do think it's a mistake to sweep those concerns under the rug. Those concerns are reasonable and have to be paid attention to.
And would I be right in assuming that vaccines are kind of like software, where they get updated over time to combat these kind of issues as they arise, if the issue is large enough to warrant said update?
Yeah, the vaccine itself may not be changed, but there are new products that are coming out all the time. There are many different COVID vaccines that are in the works, and Pfizer and Moderna are just the first two that came across. But we saw this with polio. Back when I was a little kid, polio was a terrible and common disabling condition. And we had the Salk vaccine and we had the Sabin vaccine, and they were both used. You may remember this. The Salk was injectable. The Sabin was a little sugar cube with a little drop of the live attenuated virus on it. Over time, they were both used, and then it looked like the Sabin was less safe. The Salk was safer, and so you end up discarding the one that's not as good. I think that'll happen here. Pfizer and Moderna are there. Others will come into the fold, and you'll start to see the safety profiles lead to choices of one over the other.
All right. Dr. Neal Barnard, I appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, let's move on now and switch to your gut. It's time to get a gut check as we head into the holiday season. You know, tons of cookies and treats and sweets, and that can leave you with one heck of a tummy ache. And who knows what that's doing to your gut microbiome? Well, my next guest does. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz, best-selling author, is here with us with 5 tips to keep your gut happy and healthy as we head through the holidays and into the new year. Dr. B, thanks for being here, my friend.
Chuck, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm excited to talk about these tips. And, you know, it's as you eloquently said, we are entering into this celebratory season. It's so much fun. But at the same time, what we're doing is we're taking a lifestyle that already is not very healthy for our gut microbes, and we're making it even less healthy, and we're kind of flogging our gut. And it's created this entire culture where we feel like we need to reset when we come to January. We don't need to reset. We just need to be smart about the way we approach the holiday season and protect these gut microbes, because then we're going to feel great as we move through the holidays. And we're just going to keep thriving all the way through as we move into 2021.
Man, I'm telling you, it seems like it starts at Halloween, and then we just have like this 70-day stretch where we just like destroy our health, and then like have to hit that reset button come the new year. So I'm really glad that we're going to be getting a jump start on this. So you've got 5 tips to help get us through. Let's dive right in, my friend. What is tip number 1?
Okay, so tip number 1, I want to give a shout out to Dan Buettner, who is the author of the Blue Zones. I'm sure you guys have read the book. It's a beautiful cookbook as well. And he found that in Okinawa, Japan, they have a tradition called Hara Hachibu. Hara Hachibu. And what this means is that you eat until you are 80% full. We have a bad habit in the United States in general of overeating. But this bad habit gets even worse when it's, say, Christmas or, say, Hanukkah. And we eat so much to the point that we have to go and lay on the couch in a pair of sweatpants and make strange groaning noises, and everyone knows what's going on. You ate too much and you need to chill out and relax. We don't need to take it that far. So the first tip is to follow Dan Buettner's advice. Follow the tradition from Okinawa, Japan, which is to practice Hara Hachibu. Eat until you are 80% full, and then slow down, hit the pause button, and let your body catch up. You will feel so much better. You can still wear the sweatpants. You just don't need to make the groaning noises.
I think that practice is the optimal word there. As so many of us are we've trained ourselves to push past full, and we've done that our entire lives. So that's really something that you need to be conscious about. And honestly, you know, even though I've lost a lot of weight from time to time, that is still something that I struggle with. You know, I love food, man, and I love to keep going, but I know I'm going to be in a bad way if I do. And that's something that you got to be mentally strong for and train yourself. So I'm sure that when you're working with your patients on Hara Hachibu, that's something that you talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's human nature, right? It's human nature. When you love food, when you have a passion for the food that you're enjoying, you just want more and you want more. And the problem is, as you know, Chuck, and as all of the listeners who are with us today, all the viewers who are with us today know, you feel great for about, I don't know, 30 seconds, and then you feel miserable for the next 90 minutes. And so that's what we're trying to avoid here. You can still enjoy your food, just enjoy it up to 80%, and then hit the pause button, take a break.
And let's talk about what foods you should be eating to fill up that 80%. What is tip number 2?
Oh man. All right. So look, I don't expect you to be perfect during the holiday season. I certainly am not going to be perfect during the holiday season, but we want to try to fill the gas tank with the premium fuel as much as possible to avoid putting the junk inside the gas tank. And so what I would encourage you to do is to start your meals with the fiber fueled foods first. Okay, that's a tongue twister. Fiber-fueled foods first. You do that because basically what you're doing is you're getting your fruits, your vegetables, whole grain seeds, nuts, and legumes. You already are tipping the scale of balance in your favor by doing this upfront. All right. And you also are getting the fiber on board. And the beauty of getting the fiber on board first is that fiber activates the satiety hormones so that you feel full, so that you know when to stop. So if we're going to practice harahachibu and eat until we're 80% full, we're even better off if we start the meal eating our fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grain seeds, nuts, and legumes. And that way we really truly know when we're full and when to stop.
All right, let's talk about spirits. I mean, it's a spirited time of year, but tip number 3 goes right to that.
Yeah, let's not be like the reality is this. Let's not be sabotaging our health, sabotaging our gut, and ruining the holiday season because we have too much to drink. And the healthiest beverage that exists. I mean, I'm constantly amazed by this, Chuck. We just don't want to drink water, even though it's the healthiest beverage that exists. And we're so fortunate in the United States that it's free. And so we forego the water and we rev up on the caffeine and the alcohol, and we end up damaging and insulting these gut microbes in the process of doing that. And so my message to everyone who's with us here today is don't sabotage your gut, don't sabotage your health by drinking too much alcohol and not enough water. Make sure to stay hydrated, ease off the alcohol. You want to have a drink or 2 drinks, so be it. Just make sure you're staying hydrated and don't drink until you get to the point of a hangover.
Cheers. I got my glass of water right here, my friend. How many glasses of water should we be drinking a day? We always hear that 8-ounce glass rule.
Yeah, so the 8-ounce glass rule is it's kind of interesting because if you were to go back to the 8-ounce glass rule or the 8-ounce glass rule, if you were to go and look at this, actually what they were saying is that we should have a total water intake, which by the way includes food. And the beauty of our fruits and vegetables is that they include water themselves, right? I mean, we know that like cucumber has tons of water. And so it's not so much that you need strictly 8 glasses, but the way that I see it, I mean, I'll just tell you, Chuck, one of the things that really was a game changer for me was I started waking up. I'm a huge coffee drinker. I know you are too. Love coffee. I started waking up in the morning and having 2 large glasses of water first thing. That's the first thing I do before I touch any coffee. And actually, I feel so much better. I feel so much more energized. My brain is turned on. My kidneys are turned on. My gut gets turned on. So the bottom line is 2 glasses of water when you wake up, 2 glasses of water with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you're going to be in a good spot.
Absolutely. And you're not saying go without the coffee or black tea or whatever the case may be. Just add water on top of it. I like that. That's a program that we can all get on board with. All right, so let's go back to the cookies and sweets and treats. If you eat those in abundance, you're probably just going to want to plop yourself on the couch and not move until the calendar says January 2nd. But your 4th tip has to do directly with the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's so important to stay active during the holiday season. Our bodies, our body as humans was meant to move. And we function best, our physiology functions best when we are actively moving. And there are these fascinating studies, Chuck, where they look at people who literally take a walk, nothing else. They take a walk for 30 minutes after having dinner, and they see improvements in metabolism, they see improvements in digestion and motility. And so if you're the type of person who suffers with constipation, regardless of the holiday season, this is something that you may actually find useful, is that after you have your meal, go and take a walk afterwards, and you may find that it helps to keep things moving through your body. But for all of us during the holidays, I think it's important to have this reminder that you're going to visit friends, maybe you're staying at a hotel, maybe it's cold where you're staying. We need to figure out ways to stay active, to keep moving, and if needed, God forbid, Chuck, turn on some Christmas songs and have a dance party. Have a dance party. You can move.
Can I? I'm not sure that you don't want to see me dance, man. I'm worse than Elaine on Seinfeld back in the day. It is just atrocious.
I think it would be incredible, and I not only do I want to see it, I want to participate in that dance party. I'm not just there to watch. I'm actually going to be dancing with you, Chuck. I hope you don't mind.
All right. Well, the next time you're in DC, or we'll meet halfway, and we'll have ourselves a dance party. We'll do it live here on the show. All right, man. So we talked about how much water we need. Now let's talk about how many plants we need. What is your fifth tip?
So this I saved the best for last. If you've read my book Fiber Fueled, then you know there is one golden rule when it comes to gut health. The golden rule is to eat a diversity of plants. We want as much variety as possible. Variety is very important. It's great to go and get your kale on, but if you only ate kale all day, every day, you would not be a very healthy person. You need the variety. And the different varieties of plants they actually feed different varieties of microbes. This is the way that we build a healthy gut. So I'm encouraging you during the holidays to set a daily goal, at least 12 different plants on a daily basis. So when you have a meal, sit down and count how many fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grain, seeds, nuts, and legumes. How many of these exist in this meal? And give yourself a certain number of points for each one. And at the end of the day, I want to see you at least 12 or potentially more. And that way we know if you're actually doing this, if you're actually counting how many different varieties of plants you eat, if you're actually motivated by this simple game, if you're actually motivated by this, then you are going to be moving yourself towards a healthier diet. And that's going to pay dividends as you move through the holiday season.
Yeah, and you would think, especially if that's kind of a new concept, you would think, man, 12, that's a lot. But then if you start going through what it is that you actually eat in a day, that's really not too much of a stretch.
No, it's not. I mean, if you take, just take a smoothie. Honestly, take a smoothie, make a classic smoothie in the morning. Maybe it has banana, some berries, some broccoli sprouts. Okay, so you make your smoothie and then you start throwing the toppings on top: raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, chia seeds. Maybe in the smoothie you already have the ground flax in there. Get some walnuts. Boom! Like you're already at 9 or 10. You're already that close.
There you go. It's as easy as that. I love it when you come on the show because you bring the practical advice that we can all follow. I really appreciate that, my friend, and I appreciate your color coordination today. I'm liking the blue theme.
Ah, thank you. Yes, I picked out. Normally, I don't have blue headphones, but because I knew that I would be wearing blue glasses and this blue sweater, then I got these blue headphones. I'm just kidding. I didn't do that.
I think that we need to start a vegan male fashion show. I think that that's really the direction that we need to take this thing. Let's go ahead and open up the doctor's mailbag and take some viewer questions here. A lot of people have some great questions already coming in. Let's start with one from Diane. She is curious about how Prilosec may affect her ability to get most of the nutrients out of her diet. She said she has a hard time stopping with it because she always gets heartburn. So how does that affect nutrient absorption?
Sure. So Prilosec is part of a family of medications that are used to treat acid reflux. They're called proton pump inhibitors. These are, truly the most widely prescribed medicines in the United States. There's a huge number of people that are taking these. I can assure you that there are many people hanging out with us right this moment, Chuck, that are on these medicines. At the end of the day, if I had my way, I would treat every single person with diet and lifestyle. And so my approach in my clinic, because I'm a gastroenterologist, I prescribe these medicines. My approach in my clinic is optimize diet and lifestyle. And then once you've done your best in terms of diet and lifestyle, if there is a need for medicine, then you use the lowest dose necessary to achieve the effect that you're trying to achieve. So a couple of quick tips for a person who has acid reflux and that I'm hoping will be helpful. There is a study on the Mediterranean diet, not just any Mediterranean diet, but shocking, a predominantly plant-based Mediterranean diet. It really was a plant-based diet. And they showed improvement of acid reflux on par with the use of medication. There was another study, Chuck, with fiber supplementation, which I find to be quite fascinating because fiber doesn't neutralize stomach acid. Fiber doesn't reduce stomach acid. Fiber feeds the microbiome. The microbiome is relevant to acid reflux. So we want to feed the microbiome, not just with fiber supplements, but with the general rules that I taught in Fiber Fueled and that we're talking about today, eating a diversity of plants. Last thing, and it is relevant, by the way, to the 5 tips that we talked about here today, Chuck. Last thing, there was a third study where they took people and asked them to stop drinking caffeine, stop drinking coffee. I'm sorry. I hate to be the messenger with bad news. Stop the coffee, stop the alcohol, replace it with water. And when they did this, they saw dramatic improvements of acid reflux. Plant-based diet, fiber supplement, less caffeine, less alcohol, more water. I would add get a good night's rest. By the way, melatonin supplement is also very good for acid reflux. Those are some of the things that can help.
Let me ask you about why someone may still need a little bit of help from medication if they are eating a really clean, whole food, plant-based diet. I get messages from listeners and viewers who really they'll say that they feel guilty because they're still having these issues with heartburn or whatever the case may be, but their diet is optimal. So why is it that some people still have that issue?
I think that the reality, Chuck, I mean, you almost hate to admit this, but we have to be sincere, we have to be honest when we're having conversations about the power of diet and lifestyle. I am one of the world's biggest believers in the power of diet and lifestyle, and I'm appalled that our Western healthcare system ignores what I consider to be the most important part of human health. That being said, it's not a silver bullet. And each one of us has predispositions. When we change our diet, when we change our lifestyle, we are modifying risk, all right? We are reducing our risk. But that doesn't mean that we're reducing our risk to the point that the risk no longer exists. So whether we're talking about acid reflux or heart disease or cancer or whatever it may be, the optimal diet, it's amazing how the plant-based diet is the optimal diet for every single one of these things. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating how that works. But yet, there will still be people with acid reflux and heart disease and cancer. And so we need to reduce those risks. But at the same time, there comes a time where we may need the best of 21st century healthcare. And if that's the case, then so be it. But let's take care of diet and lifestyle too.
But you blend the two together, that's still a pretty powerful combination. And regardless, it's going to put us in a heck of a lot better situation with these chronic illnesses than we're
Absolutely.
in today. All right, next question. We're running long today, but you know what? That's okay because you're the man. Let's take a question from Robert. Go back to the sugary treats that everybody eats during the holiday season. He wants to know, is high sugar consumption in beverages and food really bad for the gut?
Yeah, it is actually. It actually nurtures. So, okay, here's the key. Every dietary choice that you make is going to feed certain populations of microbes. And those microbes, they will thrive, they will grow, they will become stronger, and they will be more powerfully represented within your microbiome. When you feed them purified sugar, table sugar, you are choosing the inflammatory microbes, and that's who you're empowering. And so sugar is not good for the gut microbiome. The studies are very clear about that. By the way, saturated fat is not good for the microbiome. Artificial sweeteners are not good for the microbiome. You know what is good for the microbiome? Fiber. You know what else is good for the microbiome? Whole food plants. The sugar that exists in a whole food plant, even if it's a fruit, is not a problem. So, Chuck, let me throw this out. This is, since we're coming towards the end here, a little bonus for everyone who's been hanging out with us here today. You want a healthy dessert? You want something sweet? Try this. Take a date, cut it in half. Put a smear of the nut butter of your choice, whether that be peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, whatever you like. Cut the date in half, smear of nut butter, and then a few dark chocolate chips on top. All right. It's a Snickers bar. You can thank me later. I'm serious. You can thank me later.
That's a solid tip and excellent use of the word schmear. You said that so eloquently, like you enunciated it beautifully. Schmear.
It's a real word.
I know it is. It's fantastic. I love it, man. You say it so well. All right, let's grab a couple of more really quickly. Butterfly Love wants to know, does cold press extra virgin olive oil damage the gut microbiome and lessen absorption of nutrients?
So actually, it's the opposite. Let me give the caveat. All right, that if we look at oil, there is no more calorie dense food in the entire planet than oil. And I'm pretty sure everyone at home can guess the fiber content of oil. Y'all want to guess? What is it? It's 0. All right, there is no fiber, and it is the most calorie dense food on the planet. So I will never sit here and tell you need more oil in your life. That being said, if you're going to consume oil in moderation once in a while, extra virgin olive oil is the choice. And it appears to be okay for the microbiome. It doesn't appear to be causing trouble for the microbiome. Again, that doesn't mean you need more oil in your life. It just means when you choose to consume oil, if you choose to consume oil, that's the one to go for.
Interesting question from Elizabeth. Wants to know, should those who are sensitive to wheat take a fiber supplement?
All right, so Chuck, I'm a very big believer in fiber supplements in general. I use them myself, and I've seen amazing things happen in my clinic as a gastroenterologist with patients who take fiber supplements. They're not meant to replace whole foods. They're not meant to replace your diet. Your diet should always come first. When a person has wheat sensitivity or wheat issues, the first question that comes to mind for me is, does this person have celiac disease? And in order to answer that question, there's basically 2 tests that need to be considered, one or the other. You either need to have the genetic test, or you need to have an upper endoscopy where I will actually take biopsies from the small intestine to answer the question, do you have celiac disease? Once you have that question out of the way, it helps me to frame whether or not, if this is celiac disease, you need to be wheat and gluten-free, period. End of story. There's no debate on that.
All right. And
Disease, you make other stuff.
final question today comes to us from Amy. It's one that gets asked a lot, but let's go ahead and answer it because it's one that everybody wants to know. Should we be taking a probiotic every day?
I thought you were going to ask me where I got my protein from, Chuck, but that's okay.
No, not with the gastroenterologist. No. You don't get that.
I'm like a cow. I eat grass all day. Do we need a probiotic? The answer is no. So the vast majority probiotics, let me summarize this real quick. Tons of hype, tons of marketing, lots of money being made. Science? Not much. Very little. Diet comes first. Prebiotic fiber supplements come second. You'd be shocked, Chuck. I'm seeing patients this morning. You know how many patients I recommended probiotic to? 0. How often do I recommend probiotics? I don't even know if it's once a week. And I'm a GI doctor. This is what I do for a living.
There you go. Asked and answered. By the way, if you're still looking for a great holiday gift, I got to tell you, Dr. B's book, Fiber Fueled, is legit. New York Times bestseller, so you know it's good. So that is an excellent stocking stuffer or something that you can send to your friends and family. Phenomenal read. You can also check out Dr. B online at theplantfedgut.com. And you have some courses coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I actually have a online course that is launching on January 4th. This is the second time that we've had it. The first time we did it in September, and by the way, it's a 7-week course online with me. You would be meeting with me every week, but also there's video content, there's audio lessons, there's a workbook, there's a private Facebook group. It's very dynamic. We did it back in September, and amazing results, amazing feedback, but I took a little time off because I wanted to make it even better. So I'm super excited. We're starting up in January. And if you go to my website, theplantfedgut.com, you can find more about the course. You can find out about my email list and all these other things that are going on.
And don't forget to give him a follow on IG as well at Gut Health MD. So here's what I want to do, okay? Because we have so many questions. You're such a great guest. I want to, once a month, clear the docket and just devote the show exclusively to you. We'll talk about giving some tips, and then you can spend the rest of the time doing exactly what it was today and taking live questions on the air. Would you be up for that?
So you're putting me on the spot.
I am.
On the spot, which is very aggressive of you, Chuck. I didn't know that you were this aggressive, but I would love to do it. I would love to do it. And I'm excited. I'm excited because I love these questions and I love the PCRM family. And so it would be a pleasure.
Outstanding. Well, I look forward to that. And then we will be catching up with you in January, my friend. So in the meantime, happy holidays and the best for you in a new year.
Happy holidays to everyone. Follow those 5 simple tips, and we'll see you in the new year with a thriving gut. Let's go.
There you go. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz, the man. So we'll talk to him again in a few weeks come the new year. But really quick, before we head out of here today, let's head on down to the exam room news desk, get a check on health headlines. I told you at the top of the show that there was a new study showing that Americans might be falling out of love with meat. Well, check this out. There's a new food industry study finding that sales of plant-based meats spiked 53% during the early days of the pandemic. Now, how does that compare to sales of traditional meat? Well, that only spiked by 34%. So a big difference there. This is really just the latest sign that the meat industry is coming under fire as Americans are becoming more keenly aware of their health. The Good Food Institute reports that sales of plant-based foods overall now are outpacing the sales of everything else in the store by a multiple of 5. That is huge, and that is progress. And it also comes on heels of the news that the largest trade show in the meat industry for the first time ever is going to feature plant-based meats. And I'm not talking about a trade show just here in the US or over in the UK. I am talking about the world's largest meat trade show will be featuring plant-based meats. That is an industry trend that is undeniable. So that is your good news for the day. And that is also all the time that we have for today. So I want to thank Dr. B, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz for being here once again, and Dr. Neal Barnard, and to the crew behind the scenes that makes the magic happen. Thank you guys. And to you, my exam roomies, thanks so very much for being here and raising your nutrition IQs today. Appreciate it more than you will ever know. For everyone here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. But until then, stay safe, take a stand, and keep it plant-based.